Fred McCoy.
Hi, I'm Sheila McCoy.
And we're with the Hatfield McCoy Museum in Liberty, Kentucky. And once again, we're going to go over another one of our boards, Correcting History. This one here is going to be on the famous lawsuit that was filed pertaining to the McCoy Cemetery at Hardy, Kentucky.
All the pictures on this board, I'm going to take a close-up of so that at the end of the video, you can pause your computer or phone or whatever you're looking at, watching the video on. Look at each part of these pictures and read it yourself.
This is going to be an interesting video.
Yeah.
We've waited for a while to do this one because it's very controversial. And it's not hard to understand or follow, but over the years, it's been told in so many different ways that
things have got turned around, and it's not correct.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to read you the headline from the newspaper, and then we'll go from there. One of the newspapers of that time was the Washington Times, and it says Hatfield's McCoys are at it once again. Yeah. Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2002. Fussing, feuding, and suing. Perhaps the Hatfields and McCoys are ready to have at each other again, but with barristers, not double barrels. Ron McCoy filed suit last Friday against one John Vance, a Hatfield, down in Pikeville, Kentucky. Well, first of all, that headline there, John Vance, a Hatfield down in Pike County. A Vance is not a Hatfield. A Vance is his surname, and he's a Vance. He's not a Hatfield. Jim Vance, his great grandfather, was a run with Devil Anse Hatfield, and they were friends and so forth. But the lawsuit, and we're going to cover that as we go along. I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but the lawsuit was between two McCoys, Ron McCoy of Durham, North Carolina, and Bo McCoy of Waycross, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Against John Vance of Pikeville, Pike County, Kentucky.
Right.
And another headline that was written January 29, 2003, Hatfields, McCoys trade shots in court. The Hatfields McCoys used to settle their feuds with shotguns. It was messy, but they got their point across. Now they hire lawyers. Well, I've got a PowerPoint set up here so we don't lose our spot or overrun ourselves.
Right, or repeat. We're new at this, and so bear with us. Yeah. We'll get better as we go along.
Yeah. Our main point is not to be the best YouTuber you've ever seen. Our point in covering the Hatfields and McCoy corrections like we do is Sheila and I have got a over 800-page book out. Yeah. We've got several books, cookbooks, the only book written with a original Hatfield, this 800-page book that covers everything, and especially all of the mistakes or corrections that we try to prove with court documents, Civil War records.
We back everything up with evidence that you can see.
I was a police officer for 40 years. I retired police chief, and Sheila's a teaching assistant for the last 28 years, and should be retiring this year. So when we do these videos, it's not trying to be the best YouTuber out there. Our aim is to correct history before we pass on, or it's never done, and then people just believe what they read or see in the newspaper.
Right, it's never changed.
This video, we don't know yet until we get moving, but it may be in 2 or 3 segments. We'll make it as short as we can, as long as we can still cover the material.
Right. We don't like to make them too long.
We just want to clear up history and
do it
accurately and give a good understanding of how things got turned around, who turned them around, and how we're trying to repair them. We want to go through this slowly and methodically. That way you'll have no questions at the end of it. And as Sheila said, she took close-up pictures of this whole board.
Yep.
And she'll put them at the end of the YouTube video. You may not see it from your TV, but if you really want to read everything, just put it on your computer and you can bring it in close. And I would advise that because we're not going to cover
everything that's written here.
Nowhere near everything that's on this board, and it might be something of interest to you that we skip. Again, going back to the headlines, it talks about a suit between the Hatfields and the McCoys.
Right.
And this was not Hatfields and McCoys. This was 2 McCoys versus 1 Vance.
Mm-hmm.
Goes on to say that Ron McCoy filed a lawsuit against 1 John Vance Hatfield down in Pikeville, and of course that's incorrect. So this story is about the famous Hatfield-McCoy lawsuit. A lot of newspapers and a lot of television stations back when this was going on, that was their headlines. The story about the Hatfields and McCoys lawsuit over a graveyard. And it was all around the nation and the world was discussing the Hatfields and McCoys and this lawsuit. Just going to touch on the lawsuit filed by Ron McCoy in 2002. Ron says in his book that he's the great-great-great-grandson of Patriarch Randall McCoy.
Yeah.
Again, he's from Durham, North Carolina. His partner, Bo McCoy, is from Waycross, Georgia. And they brought the lawsuit to acquire access to the McCoy Cemetery. Ron and Bo McCoy said the owner, John Vance, had restricted access to the cemetery. The first thing we're going to clear up is that statement. They had restricted, John Vance had restricted access to the cemetery.
Well, in the past, we could go at any time we wanted to visit. We've been there a couple times.
That couldn't have been further from the truth. He didn't restrict access. What they went there for, first of all, in Ron's book, Ron says he was 35 years old before he realized that he was related to the famous feuding McCoys. And then he filed the suit, wrote a book, signed a peace treaty that had already been officially, the feud had been ended in 1976, but we'll go over that. That's our other video. John didn't restrict. For all these years, McCoys have had no problems going to the McCoy Cemetery, located on John Vance property.
Right.
And what the problem was here, that Ron, when he figured out that he was related to the McCoys, he came in from North Carolina, and Pike County Tourism, of course, give him all kinds of attention. He's an outsider, and they're wanting to run a bus, and they started this redeveloping of the Hatfield-McCoy restoration
project, yeah,
for tourism, to bring tourism to Pike County. And they were running this shuttle bus around to different areas of the feud. They thought, well, it'd be nice if we could take them to the cemetery where 6 of Randall and Sarah's children are buried.
Mm-hmm.
And the 6 are?
The 3 McCoy boys that was killed with the tied up to the pawpaw trees. Tolbert, Palmer, Randall Jr. And then when the cabin was burnt, they shot Alifair and Calvin. And then William, he was buried there as well.
William was actually one of the ones that was involved in shooting Ellis and Hatfield at the election ground. But instead of grabbing William, they grabbed
Randall Jr.
Randall Jr., 15 years old. And they killed the wrong one. And William actually died at the grave site, froze to death up there mourning for his brothers that had been killed by the Hatfields. So there's 6 of Randall and Sarah's children actually buried there.
Right.
And again, none of the McCoys ever had a problem. Nobody ever had a problem. John Vance never had a problem with anybody visiting that cemetery or the monument.
He was always really nice. He would laugh with us, joke, tell stories. Very polite.
The problem came when Ron McCoy thought he was going to tell John Vance what he was going to do with his property, and it didn't happen. The old saying, you can catch more bees with honey than vinegar, or most people will give you the shirt off their back but don't try to take it, and that pertains to John. They went up there and talked. They went up there the first trip. Ron's only been to that cemetery twice. Once before the suit, and he took a couple other fellas with him, and what they were doing is running a reconnaissance to see if they could actually turn a shuttle bus around, how they would unload people, different things like that. And then they talked to John about bringing the Pike County Tourism bus there and bringing people. And John didn't want no part of it. He said it was a privacy issue. I think no doubt it was a privacy issue, because there's the monument, there's the house. You had to walk right behind his house to get to the monument. So no doubt it was a privacy problem, but I think it was also a money problem, because the tourism was going to charge these people to ride the bus,
right,
see these sites, and